Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Moonday Musings. So, I am talking to you on Monday, the 28th of November, and here we are at the end of another month and about to transition into the last month of the year. So, I've been really trying to lean in to that space of reflection as we move into this final months of the year. So I've been talking about it a lot in my classes, and then in these episodes too, but just the importance of giving ourselves the time and the space to process the year, close out the year. So yeah, I've been doing my own kind of journaling practice and gratitude reflection on the many things that have taken place this year. And it's been really fun thinking back to some of the things that I'd forgotten about that we'd done this year. So yeah, just wanted to start with that really as we move into the month of December this Thursday, to just, as well as the excitement of the festive season, and of course like all that needs to be done and organized and prepared, do try and give yourself the chance to be quiet and to reflect and to process. We'll be speaking more about that over the coming weeks anyway, as we approach the winter solstice. So I've got a few things to share with you today for this episode. So as always, we'll be looking at the astrology and what the moon is up to this week, so that we can anchor ourselves into that energy, prepare ourselves if there's anything energetically untoward on its way. And really, always honoring that sense of self-care with the rhythms of the moon and the cycles of the seasons. And we're talking a little bit about December and some of the things that I like to do around Advent and the lead up to both solstice and Christmas. And I've got a few books to share with you and to read from as well. So I thought that this episode would be a nice opportunity to share some of my favorite books for working with the energy of midwinter. So working with the winter solstice, but as a season as well as the astronomical event that it is. So I've got a couple of bits to read, a couple of suggestions for you. Speaking of books, I finished the Book of Magic a couple of days ago. So that was the Practical Magic sequel that I was talking about in the last episode. So I really, really enjoyed it. It's made me want to go back and read all the others. And I've just got to do the final little additions to my reading journal for that as well. And then I've started reading a book called A Witch in Time. And I don't have it on my desk, so I've forgotten the author. But my parents got it me for my birthday, I think, last year. And it's been on, that the pile of shame, the book pile that moves around the house, following you around. You think, I must get to those books, I must read those books. I'm really trying to work my way through my books rather than buying any more or getting any more from the library. So yeah, I finally sat down and started reading it, and oh my goodness, I was up till 2 a.m. reading it last night. I just couldn't put it down, and I'm not close enough to the end to sort of be up that late to try and finish it. Really only just started, but it's really gripping. So once I've finished, I'll give a little bit more of a review of that, and obviously I'll be doing my reading journal spread for that. But yeah, it's really good so far. It's really interesting, it's really different, and yeah, you just want to know more and more. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I have been reading. I think it's just those two. And yesterday we had a great day at my herbalist training. So I'm training in herbalism at this wonderful space that's quite local to me, called Ravenwood. and it basically looks like wizard school, witch and wizard school. So yeah, there's an apothecary and there's a herbarium, and they've got land where they grow things. And yeah, my teacher is just wonderful and such vast knowledge. So I was there for the whole of yesterday, and it was just so immersive and enjoyable. We were making teas, we were tasting teas, we were tasting tinctures, we were passing plants around and eating them and trying to describe where we felt they were in our bodies and the energetics of them. We went through the astrology of the plants and the alchemy of the plants. And yeah, I was just in total heaven for the whole day. And yeah, I've got lots of notes to organize and to add to over the next few weeks as well. So yeah, that's really lifted my spirits, and we're back there again in just 3 weeks for another day in December, where we'll be doing a little bit more of the same. But yeah, it just felt like a total delight to walk into the space yesterday, and she'd got all these like baskets of herbs and like dried herbs and fresh herbs and jars and canisters and everything. So yeah, I'm kind of feeling quite inspired, a bit tired today, but very inspired from that yesterday. So let's, before I go off on too many different tangents, as I so often do, let's have a look at this week then. So we are starting today with a waxing crescent moon in Aquarius. So it's always nice with a new week to just reflect on the previous week as well. And Mondays are really nice for that, with the qualities of the moon. So we had that beautiful positive new moon in Sagittarius last week, and it's nice to just sit with how did that move through you last week? How are you feeling Sagittarius season so far? Like, I've spoke to a few people who are like, I feel this instant lift and shift, and things just feel a little bit lighter and a little bit brighter and a little bit easier at the moment. So if you haven't had a chance yet to perhaps think about new moon intentions or think about the next month and what you would like, I would say that a waxing crescent moon is a nice time to do that. We've got a little bit more moonlight. The energy of the lunar cycle is beginning to build. And Aquarius is really nice for thinking big. It's the sign of the kind of revolutionary. They are positive, they're expansive, they are visionaries, they're creative, and this really works nicely with the Sagittarius energy from last week as well. So we're going to be in Aquarius for today and tomorrow. So a nice opportunity to give yourself some time to think about what you want for next month, what you want this moon cycle to be for you. And Aquarius is an air sign, so we can be, in our thoughts and in our creative process and receiving inspiration as well. Wednesday, we have got the first quarter moon, and it's going to be in Pisces. So your first quarter moon in the lunar cycle, that's your chance to really to start to commit to your intentions. It's also that halfway marker between the new moon and the full moon, and it's sort of giving us that little heads up that from this point we're building towards the full moon. So the energy might be a bit intense, emotions might be rising to the surface, but it also means our energy begins to build too. So it's a nice time to kind of get stuck in to projects, to creativity, to being a little bit more social perhaps. And just being aware that Pisces is quite an emotional sign, and it also shows up differently with people. So if you know Pisces can be a tricky sign for you, we're going to be in Pisces Wednesday and Thursday. Okay, but a nice chance to sit with your feelings, understand what's coming up for you, and also perhaps think about releasing the previous months. So Pisces is also very dreamy, very creative. Thursday is the start of a new month, the month of December, and the first day of Advent as well. So whether Advent to you means the countdown to Christmas, or Advent to you means the countdown to the winter solstice and the rebirth of the sun, or it's a little bit of both. That begins on Thursday, and we have got the moon in Aries Friday and Saturday. Now, this might be where things start to feel a little bit intense because Aries is quite hot-headed, can be quick to anger, can kind of react without thinking sometimes. And if you've got that with a waxing gibbous moon, which we will be as we begin to move through the weekend, just be aware of that. Yeah. So we've got Pisces stirring up all our emotions, perhaps making us feel a little bit sensitive and a little bit vulnerable. And then Aries comes along and sometimes just makes us a little bit irritated with all the emotions that have come up. So it can be a little bit reactive. So I would just make a note of that in your diary and just remember to ground and remember to take some little breaths and spaces between information you're receiving and then how you're reacting and responding to that information. Aries is also incredibly passionate and a sign of action. It's a cardinal sign. So again, if you're looking at kind of working with bringing your intentions to fruition, that Aries waxing gibbous moon can be really helpful for that. But yeah, just being aware with emotions and hot-headedness and all of that. Sunday, we're going to be in Taurus. So Taurus helps to ground that fiery Aries energy. It's a sign that really brings us back to ourself and our body and the earth, and that's a nice way to end the week. It's still waxing gibbous though, so we're still building up to that full moon which is taking place next week. All right, so yeah, in general, building lunar energy towards the full moon next week. There's nothing I don't think astrologically too tricky this week, although Mars is still in retrograde, and I think that has been messing with a few things, and making perhaps bringing up unresolved anger or unresolved issues. But yeah, from what I can gather, this week is fairly low-key astrologically. Do let me know if you know otherwise, and share it with the group. So Advent, December, new month, and the countdown to the solstice. So I have to say that over the last few years, just from deepening my own practice and reading more and connecting with lots of different teachers and the way that people do things, this time of year has really taken on a really different energy for me. And I think that I was definitely one of those people that kind of left everything quite last minute and kind of really only enjoyed Christmas like right up to the point of like Christmas Eve, Christmas Day and Boxing Day. And I didn't really have a lot of magic either side of that. And as I said, over the last few years, just as I have connected more with seasonal practices and read more and been inspired by others, the magic has just expanded and expanded, and I'm really excited for this year, mainly because of having Orla. She's going to be 2 soon, and she's just a lot more aware this year of what is going on. Last year was exciting because it was her first Christmas, but she's too little really to know what was going on. Whereas she's really, I mean, she's Aquarius, so she's very like interested and inquisitive and curious. And so I'm really looking forward to experiencing December with her and all the various things to do. But I really love all the spiritual practices that I've discovered over the years, that are rooted in the build up to the solstice. So one of the things, and I think I spoke about this last year when I recorded the podcast episode for the winter solstice, so please feel free to check that out, and I will try and do another one for this year as well. But I came across the practice of an Advent wreath, but a pagan version of this, or non-Christian version of this, via Molly Reamer, who runs Bridget's Bridget's Grove. So she does a lot of amazing content. She does a lot of free content. I really value her work and find a lot of what she does incredibly inspiring. And the idea being you have a different candle on your wreath for each Sunday before either the solstice or Christmas Day, or both. And you light the candle on the Sunday, and that candle represents a different energy, a different theme for each week leading up to the solstice or Christmas. So I wanted to read something here from one of my favorite books. This is my first recommendation, and I know I've mentioned it before, but Merry Midwinter by Gillian Monks. So she has a section here on Advent, and then particularly how to make an Advent wreath. So I just wanted to read a little bit from here, because her experiences of the lead up to Christmas are so lovely. So she's put here, on the first Sunday of Advent, my mother would take her secateurs, and we would go out into the garden and cut sprigs of evergreen, dark green holly with leaves that looked like they'd been individually polished and sporting lethal thorns, and the lighter, less painful mahonia and tendrils of pliant ivy. I would watch as my mother skillfully wove them into a wreath, forming it around a circular framework made from chicken wire, and fixing the candles in between. To this she then added the little woodland gnomes made from pine cones, which she had made earlier in the autumn. And as I grew older, I would add tiny coloured glass balls. The 4 red candles, one for each Sunday, were wedged in amongst the greenery and wire, so that they, hopefully, didn't fall over. But inevitably, there was always one wobbly one. So a lot of the book is that kind of vibe. It's just her memories and her traditions, and I just really, really love this book. So definitely have a look into Advent wreaths. They are really beautiful. Have a look if you can find the links to the Bridget Groves one. I will try and find the link myself and put it in the show notes. But I think if you Google Advent wreaths, there's a lot of information out there. And the themes were like peace one week, love one week, hope one week, and then joy one week. And then at the end, this final candle in the center, which represents the rebirth of the sun. So yeah, really recommend that. I'm going to build mine this week. The other thing that I came across a few years ago, and I think this was just via Pinterest, was making a solstice spiral. So a little bit like an advent calendar or an advent candle, but it's a spiral, so really honoring that kind of Celtic symbology of spiraling in towards the solstice, and then of course we spiral back out towards the summer solstice and then spiral back in. So I meant to put this on my desk to show you, so give me 2 chances whilst I grab mine. So obviously those of you listening on the podcast, I'll try and describe this as best as I can, and then I will put a picture up on social media as well. So there's loads of different ways that you can create a solstice spiral. There's salt dough I've seen, which are wonderful. So they're quite a lot larger. And you create this almost like a snake-like structure, and then holes to put the candle in, and then you move the candle each day. I came across this version and I really liked it because I love embroidery. That's my kind of big joy at the moment, is getting back into textile art. And I love sewing and anything to do with fabric. So I made this one last year or the year before. So it's a circle of felt, and then I have sewed, hand stitched a piece of wool in a large spiral. So it is fiddly, and it did take a long time, but for some reason I seem to enjoy things that are really fiddly and detailed. So you don't have to do it like that. I mean, you can glue wool or string down onto it, or you can just do less stitches. But I mean, that's the level of detail that for some reason seems to bring me joy. Look how tiny the stitches are. So then using something to represent each day on the countdown towards the solstice. So I've used these lovely star sequins. So that lays on top of a wooden slice that I have. And then I just got a little spell candle. And then I made the clay base. So it's just air dry clay kind of into a ball, and then you squash the candle into it to make the hole, let it dry without the candle in it, and then I painted it. And then that just moves. So you light the candle and then it can move around on each point as you journey towards the solstice. I think it depends on how you want to do this. You could have a candle every day and let the whole thing burn out, and then another candle. I I think I just tend to light it a little bit and make a kind of intention for each day, blow it out, and then do the next one. Mainly because you go through a lot of candles to do that. So yeah, I just use the one. I think it probably would be nicer to use a candle per day and let it burn down completely. But I'm keeping it real. I can't always afford to buy that many candles. Anything to do with fire, as always, be sensible, be careful. Don't set it going and then walk out the room and leave it and things like that. Make sure it's not around anything that can catch fire and all of that business. But yeah, I really like that. I like the solstice spiral imagery as well. And there is a really beautiful meditation that you can do. There's a book called Wild and Wise, and there's loads of meditations in this book. I'll try and remember to put the link. I'll try and link all the books I've mentioned in the notes today for you. But there is a solstice spiral meditation that she guides. And this is such a wonderful way to process the year. She takes you through each month of the year. You go back to January and you visualize yourself walking a solstice spiral, lighting a candle, and then remembering the blessings from each month, giving thanks for each month, and then you keep going all the way to now. I adore this practice. I think it is a wonderful way to reflect upon the year and to find blessings in the year, particularly if you've had a difficult year. And sometimes it's hard to remember those pockets and moments of peace or happiness, joy or love, connection. And it can help us too to process sadness and grief if we're really present to what has taken place within that year. So I really, really recommend that as a practice as well. The other two books I wanted to mention today are A Poem for Every Winter Day. My friend got me this maybe it was last Christmas, or the year before, I don't remember. But there's a lovely message here saying for dark days and sleeping babies. So thank you, Emily, for this beautiful book. So it's as it says, a poem for every winter day. So this is a nice thing, if you lit your candle and then read a poem to do every day. I want to read you something here. So this is called The Year's Midnight by Gillian Clark. The flown, the fallen, the golden ones, the deciduous dead, all gone, to ground, to dust, to stand, to sand, borne on the shoulders of the wind. Listen, they are whispering now while the world talks and the ice melts and the seas rise. Look at the trees. Every leaf scar is a bud, expecting a future. The earth speaks in parables, the burning bush, the rainbow, promises, promises. So that is a poem about the winter solstice, the darkest day of the year. And it says here, Gillian Clark's poem is a voice from the depths of darkness, but it is one that knows that daylight will come again. So yeah, there's loads in there that is really that are really beautiful to connect and read. And the other one that I love is from this set of books that I've showed you before, because there's the spring, the summer, the autumn, and then this is the winter one. So an anthology for the changing seasons. So this is a collection of writings about winter, edited by Melissa Harrison. And I wanted to read a little bit about leaves at this time of year. So if you're anything like me at the moment, the garden here is just full of leaves, full, and we're trying to clear some of the bits of the garden where the slabs are, just to make it easier for being outside and for Orla to play. But there's a lot of importance on not cleaning up all the leaves. So here we go. This is by Edward Stepp, and from something called Nature Rambles, an Introduction to Country Law from 1930. If you are curious to know what happens to the vast number of fallen leaves that rustle under your feet and form a thick carpet in the wood, turn up a few with your stick. Where they are dry and loose, you will find that some are covering small insects and snails that have adopted them as bedspreads to keep off frost. More in the open and in slight hollows, they have become matted together with moisture, and between these you will find worms and snails feeding upon them and reducing them to skeletons, the firmer ribs and nerves being left. Some are covered with the delicate white tracery of fine fungus threads. These are also doing their best to break up the ripe leaves that have finished their work in that form and are now to be added to the soil to furnish food for other plants. Some again show that one or other of the mixies has taken possession, and though these may be in the early creamy condition, by taking away a wad of the sodden leaves containing them and keeping it moist, you may be able to see the development to the fruiting stage. So I love this book because there's so many writings like that, the details of each season, things that perhaps we don't realize or we're not connected to. And I think that we are very disconnected to the decay of winter. I think we're very quick to clean it up and to make everything look pretty and neat. And this is a really integral, important part of the season, is the decay, the composting, and that part of the cycle that is rebirth. So the things that are dying and decaying are not really dying, because they're becoming food and nutrients and shelter and sustenance. So this continual cycle, this wheel, this beautiful flow of nature. And it can be just like that if we reflect on our year and reflect within our own heart. Whatever feels like it is dying and changing, know that it is transforming into something else. But we have to make space for the new. We've got to clear space for new things to grow. So we've got to allow that decay, that really important part of the cycle, to take hold. So I really hope that you've enjoyed this week's episode. I'm wishing you a beautiful waxing moon week, and I will be back next week to talk about the full moon in Gemini, the final full moon of 2022, and a little bit more about the approach and the magic that we can engage with as we make our way towards the solstice. So wishing you all a beautiful week, and I'll see you soon. Bye.